Aviation experts claim the missing Malaysian Airlines flight MH370 may have been hijacked by an experienced pilot.
239 passengers and crew, most of them Chinese, were lost in 2014.
Now today marks the 10th anniversary of the disappearance of Malaysia Airlines flight MH370, one of the greatest aviation mysteries.
Malaysian Airlines flight MH370 disappeared with 239 people on board. This started the biggest search ever in aviation, but the plane was never found. Recently, a scientist has come up with a new theory. He thinks someone deliberately hid the plane deep in the Indian Ocean. Not just that it ran out of fuel and crashed. What if the real story of MH370 is more shocking than we thought? Keep watching as we reveal the layers of this mystery. A new theory on the disappearance of MH370. Just when it seemed like the mystery might never be solved, Vincent Lyne, a brave scientist from Tasmania, brought new hope with a bold claim. He thinks the plane wasn't lost in an accident. Instead, he says it was purposefully sunk deep into the Indian Ocean, specifically in a place called Broken Ridge that's more than 20,000 feet deep. As we explore Vincent Lyne's troubling theory, could it lead to a new search or uncover a darker plot? Stay with us as we delve into what might be hidden in the deep, dark waters of the ocean. According to Lyne, the crash site wasn't random. He believes it was a very remote area known as the eastern end of the Broken Ridge. This spot is incredibly deep, around 6,000 meters, and surrounded by steep, narrow edges and high ridges, making it a perfect place to hide something as large as an aircraft. Lyne is confident in his findings, stating that, based on scientific analysis, the remains are likely resting in this hidden underwater location. His research calls for a new look at the case, suggesting that the mystery might finally be understood through science. But this wasn't the only surprising part of his research. As he delved deeper, more unexpected details came to light, each adding a new layer to the story of the disappearance. The attempt almost worked, but the right wing hit a wave. This event, along with the regular satellite communication checks by Inmarsat, became crucial discoveries that were celebrated in the Journal of Navigation. Mr. Lyne, who is connected with the University of Tasmania's Institute for Marine and Antarctic Studies, mentioned that the damage to the plane's wings, flaps, and flaperon suggested it was deliberately brought down into the water, similar to what happened with Captain Chesley Sully Sullenberger on the Hudson River in 2009. This well-known location has an incredibly deep pit, plunging down 6,000 meters at the eastern end of Broken Ridge. It's set in a dangerous and wild part of the ocean, famous for its rich fish life and newly discovered sea creatures. The pit has steep sides and is surrounded by towering underwater mountains and other deep crevices. It's filled with fine layers of sediment, making it a perfect hidden spot. Mr. Lyne pointed out that this area should be explored as it's of great importance. He also mentioned that the decision to search this spot is up to the authorities and exploration companies. However, from a scientific perspective, it's clear why past searches failed, and the science strongly suggests this is where the plane lies. He concluded by saying that, scientifically, the mystery of the disappearance has been solved. But even with all this information, there's still a lingering uncertainty. The science might be clear, but the final confirmation remains out of reach. Imagine a situation where everything we thought we knew about the disappearance was suddenly thrown into doubt. What if the plane wasn't lost in the areas where search teams have been looking? Recently, a surprising claim by a movie producer suggested that the aircraft might be hidden deep in the Cambodian jungle. Could this really be true? Could it finally solve one of the most puzzling aviation mysteries of our time? Adding a new layer of mystery to the story, a former chief pilot from Malaysia Airlines shared a troubling perspective during an interview with Four Corners, an Australian investigative team. This discussion was featured in their Amazon Prime documentary called Lost. The story they presented was chilling. Someone on board had deliberately turned off the plane's transponder at 1:21 a.m., a device crucial for communication with air traffic control. Many experienced pilots agreed that this action was no accident. Steve Budigan, a former Boeing pilot, emphasized the importance of the transponder. He explained that it plays a vital role in sending key information, like altitude, speed, and flight path, to controllers on the ground. He was firm in saying that there would be no logical reason to turn it off on purpose, and it would be extremely unlikely for it to happen by mistake. Supporting his view, Nick Acheland, another former chief pilot with Malaysia Airlines, admitted during the investigation that he wasn't sure who turned off the transponder, but he stressed that this deliberate act was central to the plane's mysterious disappearance. These new details have added a layer of intrigue to the fate of the plane, leading to more questions about what really happened in the cockpit, who was responsible for deactivating the transponder, and why they did it. The story took an even darker turn when Four Corners revealed that around the same time, the in-flight entertainment and backup communication systems were also disrupted. This pointed to two troubling possibilities: either a deliberate act by the crew that led to a crash, or a catastrophic fire that overtook the cockpit. With this new perspective on MH370's final moments, we now pivot to explore other unresolved aviation mysteries that continue to perplex the world. A new twist in the MH370 investigation. But this wasn't the worst part. These unsettling discoveries have left many wondering what really happened on that tragic day in 2014. To make things more complicated, another piece of the puzzle emerged when investigators reported finding an older crash site. Cindy Hendry, a volunteer from the satellite imagery company Tomnod, made an important discovery shortly after the disappearance of MH370 on March 8, 2014. Her find has since become a key part of one of aviation's most baffling events. She identified what looked like aircraft wreckage in the South China Sea. Sadly, her discovery was initially ignored as authorities were convinced the plane had crashed in the Indian Ocean. In the new Netflix documentary, MH370, The Disappeared Plane, Hendry spoke about her relentless search for the truth, driven by the haunting memories of the family's pain, which gave her a strong sense of duty. Living in Florida, Hendry used her sharp eye, developed through her photography hobby and her work with Tomnod, a platform known for analyzing satellite images. She recalled the first images she reviewed, describing an endless stretch of ocean, an expanse of darkness with nothing to see, until she noticed something unusual, a patch of white that could be the clue everyone had been searching for. With strong determination, Henry spotted a large area of white debris floating in the South China Sea near Vietnam, right around the last known location, according to radar data. As she looked more closely, Henry found a piece that looked like part of an aircraft's nose cone. A cold chill ran through her as she realized it could be from the missing plane. Driven by the urgency to share her discovery, she tried to reach out to the investigative teams in Malaysia Airlines, but her messages seemed to disappear into thin air, leaving her feeling frustrated and ignored. Even though she strongly believed in the importance of her evidence, her attempts to bring attention to it were repeatedly dismissed. The Malaysian authorities eventually stopped their search in the South China Sea, swayed by data from the British company Inmarsat, which suggested the plane most likely ended up in the vast waters of the Indian Ocean. Henry's discovery, as significant as it was, seemed destined to be overlooked in the larger story. But this wasn't the worst part. As new evidence comes to light, the story takes an unexpected turn, forcing us to rethink what we thought we knew. The idea that the plane, once believed to have crashed in the open waters of the South China Sea or the Indian Ocean, might actually be hidden in a dense jungle changes everything. It disrupts the accepted storyline and leaves many questions unanswered. To fully understand this new twist, it's important to know the complex background. The mystery began on March 8, 2014, when a regular international flight operated by Malaysia Airlines took off from Kuala Lumpur International Airport, heading for Beijing Capital International Airport. No one knew then that this flight would become one of the most baffling events in aviation history. The plane, a Boeing 777-200ER, was notable for being the 404th of its kind. It first took to the skies on May 14, 2002, and was delivered to Malaysia Airlines by the end of that month. It was powered by two Rolls-Royce Trent 892 engines and could carry up to 282 passengers, making it a significant presence in the sky. On the day it disappeared, the plane had 12 Malaysian crew members and 227 passengers from 14 different countries, each on their own journey for various reasons. After the disappearance, Malaysia Airlines quickly released a detailed list of everyone on board, hoping to bring a human element to the tragedy. But the story took a twist when it was discovered that the passenger list had mistakes. 2 Iranians were traveling under stolen identities, one Austrian and the other Italian. This deepened the mystery surrounding the flight's passengers and their intentions. Initially, the flight took off without any issues at 12:41 a.m., with everything working as expected. It was the quiet beginning of what should have been an ordinary journey. At 1:07 a.m., the Aircraft Communications Addressing and Reporting System, ACARS, sent its last message, reporting normal conditions and showing the plane was on a direct path to Beijing. The airplane was busy collecting a lot of information during its flight, similar to how a car's computer keeps track of the engine's performance. This included important details about how the plane's engines were running. As the flight moved from Malaysian to Vietnamese airspace, the pilot made a routine voice check-in with air traffic control. The pilot's final message, a simple "all right, good night," seemed like a normal handover process. But soon after, something critical happened. The transponder, a key device that sends important flight information to radar systems, suddenly stopped working. This meant that radar operators could only see a vague signal with no details about the plane's identity, location, or direction. The transponder's sudden stop, which could be easily turned off from inside the cockpit, marked a significant change in the flight situation. Despite this, the Thai military radar briefly lost and then picked up an unidentified aircraft traveling in the opposite direction of the scheduled route. It seemed like the plane had changed its course, but no one knew why. Interestingly, the last data transmission showed that everything was normal on the planned route to Beijing. But soon after, civilian radars lost contact with the plane over the Gulf of Thailand, between Malaysia and Vietnam. This was a critical moment in the story. As we peel back the layers of this complex saga, the next chapter will delve deeper into the implications of these new findings and what they mean for the future of aviation safety, the ongoing search for MH370. What was even more troubling was that another scheduled data transmission didn't happen, showing that someone with specific technical knowledge had likely turned off this system. This raised serious concerns about the plane's condition. Later, military radar detected the plane crossing over the Strait of Malacca, far off its intended path, suggesting it was heading back across the Malay Peninsula. This was the last time the plane was tracked by radar. Malaysia Airlines then realized that Flight 370 was missing from radar and immediately launched search efforts. They declared a code red crisis, signaling the urgent need for an emergency response. Despite all efforts to confirm the plane's status, it became clear that the plane had not arrived in Beijing as it was supposed to. But this wasn't the worst part. The situation grew more intense when Malaysia Airlines publicly admitted that the plane had disappeared. A significant clue emerged when a satellite detected the plane over 7 hours after it had taken off. Even though the communication systems were down, the satellite still managed to trace the plane's journey. This satellite data, while incomplete, confirmed the plane's identity but couldn't pinpoint its exact location. With these findings, the lingering question remained: has MH370 been found? Various theories continue to circulate, ranging from a tragic accident to more disturbing scenarios involving the plane's cargo. Questions and calls for detailed investigations began to rise after metal fragments were found in the wreckage of the missing plane. One theory that caught people's attention was the idea that the pilot, Zahari Ahmad Shah, may have deliberately crashed the plane. According to this theory, Shah intentionally diverted the plane, turned off radar communications, depressurized the cabin, and set the plane on autopilot, leading it to run out of fuel and crash. However, official reports argue that Shah's professional experience and mental health don't support this idea. Another theory points to Russian operatives possibly hijacking the plane to distract the world from Russia's actions in Crimea. This speculation gained traction, especially because it coincided with another Malaysian Airlines flight being shot down over Ukraine, allegedly by a Russian missile. The government has not ruled out external interference, especially since the plane's course change was done manually, not by autopilot. But there's an even more shocking theory. Some suggest that the U.S. military might have shot down the plane to stop it from crashing into an American military base on Diego Garcia. These various theories add to the confusion and keep the mystery of the lost aircraft alive. With new evidence emerging, the focus on these theories has been renewed, potentially bringing us closer to understanding what really happened. The search for the missing plane has been a long and complicated journey, involving many countries and phases. After the plane disappeared, a large-scale search and rescue operation began in Southeast Asia, first focusing on the Gulf of Thailand in the South China Sea. Later, based on radar data, the search expanded to the southern Indian Ocean, far off the coast of Australia. This part of the search was a massive effort led by the Joint Agency Coordination Center and involved Malaysia, China, and Australia. By 2017, the search had cost around $155 million, with Malaysia, Australia, and China sharing the expenses. In 2018, a private marine exploration company, Ocean Infinity, took over using advanced technology to search a more focused area and conducting detailed underwater surveys. But despite all these efforts, the search ended in June 2018, leaving many questions unanswered. In 2022, there were announcements about possibly restarting the search in the coming years, depending on approval from the Malaysian government. This renewed effort is driven by the possibility of new evidence and the persistent demands from the victims' families for another investigation. The quest to uncover the truth continues, with each new mission bringing us a step closer to solving the mystery of the lost aircraft. The story of the missing flight remains one of the most puzzling events in aviation history. While official investigations suggest the plane likely ran out of fuel over the Indian Ocean, the exact circumstances of its disappearance are still unknown. The final report from the Malaysian Ministry of Transport even leaves room for the possibility of foul play. Debris found along the shores of the Indian Ocean hasn't been definitely linked to the missing flight. A documentary released in March on Netflix explores various theories, questioning the accuracy of radar data and offering different satellite images of possible wreckage. Back in 2018, a British video producer named Ian Wilson suggested that the plane might be hidden in Cambodia's thick jungle. This idea came from satellite images on Google Maps, showing a shape resembling an airplane in Cambodia's Perak province. Recently, several British media outlets revisited this story, bringing it back into the spotlight. The images, provided by Maxar Technologies and used by Google Maps, do indeed show an object shaped like an airplane in the Cambodian jungle. However, these images were taken in 2004, a full 10 years before the plane disappeared, making them less likely to be related to the missing flight. The theory about the plane being in the Cambodian jungle has been met with criticism. For example, the size of the aircraft in the image doesn't match the Boeing 777 used, and its position doesn't fit the expected path. Also, satellite images usually capture planes in midair, not on the ground, further raising doubts about this finding. But this isn't the only challenge in solving the mystery. Each new clue and theory draws attention. Yet the search remains incredibly difficult and without easy answers. However, there is a new method that involves studying barnacles found on aircraft wreckage to trace the plane's final location. This approach could lead to new discoveries, but the truth about what happened to the plane is still out of reach. Was the disappearance of MH370 a meticulously planned event by a skilled pilot, or just a tragic accident? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more.